only just started, frankly. One of the biggest failings of that bill actually was the elimination of the gas tax. Because it wasn't really eliminated, they just shuffled the taxes around. Those taxes went to the wholesale fuel tax and increased sales tax. So we haven't really seen the gas taxes go away. We've just seen a dedicated source of funding for transportation go into the general fund. And now we've got to fight for those dollars just like we fight for every other dollar. To the extent that we are able to revisit that aspect of ensuring that we're taking transportation tax dollars and put them back into the investment in our crumbling transportation infrastructure, that's an essential priority that we have to address straight away. I applaud the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority and the work that it's doing to prioritize projects. It's not only in Northern Virginia where we have this issue. The entire state has a major issue. The American Society of Civil Engineers rates our roads just about as well maintained as our schools, and many of our schools are over 60 years old. They're falling apart, and we're not doing what we need to address them. So this gets back to the original question about where we're spending our money and our priorities. Are we spending them in the right place? I'd say no. We need to figure out how to address them. And from a transportation perspective, we're only getting more and more gridlock in Northern Virginia.
Well, of course, we still have the gas tax taking money into the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission. It's not as high as I would like, but that still exists. The Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, you get lost in acronyms sometimes, but the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority is where the money that was funded from HB 2313 now in 2013 goes. So that money is there. It's just been funded. We don't know exactly where it's going to go yet. One of the things that I want to make sure to protect the residents of this district, to protect the residents of the 45th, is not just that Northern Virginia gets to keep its money in Northern Virginia, since after all, we have the economic engine of the state, we have the most growth in the state, we have the most needs, our roads, our bridges, our public transportation needs are greater because of our greater growth, but also intra-Northern Virginia. So Alexandria and Arlington pay a lot more into it than Loudoun does. Well, then we should get more out of it than Loudoun does. Part of it is really being very parochial, protecting you folks in this room and making sure we get our share, not just Northern Virginia getting its share, but our share of MVTA dollars, and making sure that this money comes here. And it is something that's new, it's something we have to be very careful about and watchful for, and that's something I commit to do.
Mr. Tom.
I think the transportation bill that was passed a few years ago was a very positive thing. It was the first time in 20 years there was even bipartisan consensus on transportation. And I know that funding from that bill enabled Potomac Yard Metro to actually be implemented today. And I think as our community grows, we have to be mindful of the congestion that is created on our roads. We need more transportation options. I personally take the Metro to work every day, and I want to make sure it's safe and reliable and well-funded. And I think there should be other options too, like dedicated bus lanes. And I spend a lot of time at the doors talking to people who bike to work, and they are concerned that the National Park Service doesn't clear their trails in the winter, and that limits the opportunity for people to bike as a mode to get to work. So I'm surely in favor of more transportation options and ways to make sure that our transportation infrastructure is funded.
Ms. Chapman.
I think there's a couple things we need to do. The traffic that's here is not from here. The traffic that's here is from Prince William and from Loudoun. We need regional solutions. Some of the money from a couple of years ago is helpful. It's not enough, and it doesn't solve all of it. We need to think about creative solutions. How do we expand VRE, for example? How do we help people find ways to get out of their cars in ways that are safe and accessible and equally convenient? And those are going to cost money. As we came into this, I often drive. And so I decided to take a look at how long it would take me if I took public transportation and how much it would cost and what would happen when I got home at 11 o'clock at night. And the truth is, it takes twice as long to use public transit. We need to actually adequately fund public transit, so that's not true. We need our Blue Line trains back. The deal that was cut many years ago to help support the Silver Line by, in some ways, weakened the Blue Line. We need to fix it. The VDOT, the Department of Transportation Loan Program that will help with Potomac Yard will help with some of that. It's not enough. Metro needs a dedicated funding source, period. We need federal investment. We need to locally be able to make some determination. The Dillon Rule piece that we just spoke about can help us locally, regionally determine what we need and begin to raise funds for our own needs.
Mr. Becker?
Well, the transportation bill was a big step forward, but it wasn't such a great bill. It tended to perpetuate the same types of investments in road building that we've seen in the past, which are not sustainable. It did provide some new funding for other forms of transportation as well, but we need a sea change in the ratio of spending on roads versus alternate transit. I made a conscious decision when I moved here 12 years ago to an area with a lot of traffic to live in a place where I could walk to work. And when I have to drive, it's in a hybrid electric vehicle. So I was astounded that the transportation bill put an extra tax on people who make the choice to drive a cleaner car. I applaud Senator Evan and others for their leadership in getting that hybrid tax repealed. But it's an indication of the backwards mentality that a lot of folks in the General Assembly have when it comes to transportation. We need to invest in alternative strategies. For example, I think telework is a form of alternate transit, if you will, certainly a form of alternate commuting, that the state can do a lot to help fund. Employers have to allow their employees to telework, but the state can invest in additional regional telework centers so that you can go to a place in your local area with shared office space and office supplies, and you can spend more time with your family and less time driving on the road. So we need to rethink the focus. Even though the transportation bill was better than the system used to be, it's still not enough.